Hey everyone, Battlebots Explained here, and welcome to this little special episode. Today I'm just going to be basically talking and giving my opinion on my personal top 10 favorite robots from Battlebots. I'm specifically talking about the reboot seasons, in other words from 2015 onward. I'm not talking about the old Comedy Central days. If you guys want me to do my top 5 or top 10 favorite bots from that era, then just leave a comment and let me know. So guys, this is going to be my personal top 10 favorite robots from the reboot season, and again, this is just my personal opinion, and I'm not necessarily basing these off of how successful the bots were, just whether or not I personally like them or not. And again, my personal picks are going to kind of reflect, what styles of robots I like, or just, their driving styles, what sort of weapons they use, etc. This is going to be a fun little video, guys, so let's get started. If you guys enjoy this video, please leave a like, also consider subscribing, and we're going to get right into this. And we're going to start out at number 10 with, you guys may be kind of surprised at who's at the bottom of this list. It's actually Endgame. Now, let me say a few different things about Endgame. First of all, having Endgame at the very bottom of my top favorite list really shows you guys that there are going to be some pretty good robots in this video. So, what's so special about Endgame? Well, let me explain a few things. First of all, I've mentioned this before, guys. My favorite version of Endgame was the 2018 version that first came in Season 3. Partially because it was already a proven bot, it had multiple championships in other tournaments, and it was just a very simple bot that worked really well. It was a very simple box with a wedge, with a vertical spinner on it. And, they changed it over time, and 2019, unfortunately, Endgame was really bad, and they only got a few victories. And then they came over in 2020 with a few improvements, and they just killed everyone, just about. Spoiler alert, this is the current champion of Battlebots right now, so certainly Endgame has improved greatly. They have amazing weapon power, their reliability has improved substantially from previous seasons. And this bot is overall just a beast, and Jack Barker's driving is pretty good overall. And yeah, Endgame is a pretty good bot. Do I think necessarily they're going to be able to hold on to their title in the upcoming season if there is a Season 6? I personally don't really think so, partially because Endgame still has its reliability issues, and its biggest weakness, I think, is it gyro dances a lot. In other words, when the bot turns, because the weapon's spinning so fast and so heavy, it tends to lift up a little bit, and when that happens, the bot's vulnerable, and, bad things can happen there. So I don't think, personally, Endgame's going to be able to hold on to its title for the next season, but absolutely it's incredible, though, they were able to win Season 5, spoiler alert for all of you. And yeah, this is a very good, durable, overall, great vertical spinner. There's not very much else I can say about it. And so Endgame gets number 10 on my top 10 favorites bot lists. Let's go on to our next bot, which is Black Dragon at number 9. Now guys, I have always liked Black Dragon, ever since, even before I ever actually saw it compete in Battlebots. I saw this thing compete as General and as Federal MT in Robo games. This is a great team that knows what they're doing. They have taken on many teams beforehand, really well-known teams. They've defeated Marco Meggiolaro of Minotaur and also Toro Maximus multiple times. They've won multiple tournaments, and when they came into Battlebots in 2019, I was so excited for them. And they certainly didn't disappoint then, and they really did not disappoint in the 2020 season, as, spoiler alert, Black Dragon got all the way to the semifinals. This bot is a really powerful overall egg beater spinner. It has a good wedge in front. It has multiple different configurations to deal with different opponents. It has a really good driver, and I believe his name is Gabriele Bertoli. I may be pronouncing his name wrong. If I am really sorry for that. But this bot's pretty durable overall, and also the wheels, very similar to some other robots I'll point out later on this video. The wheels appear to be kind of a solid rubber, I believe. I'm not really seeing rims on them, so Black Dragon's wheels are pretty durable. The wedge is great, excellent driver, it's got good weapon power. Even when the weapon dies on Black Dragon, this thing's a brick, and it's not going to die off, which is certainly impressive considering all the hits that it can tank. So yeah, guys, Black Dragon gets my personal 9th favorite robot list. So let's move on to our next bot, which is number 8, and this one's going to be Gigabyte. Now guys, let me just say something. I know Gigabyte is not has historically not really been the most reliable bot in the world, and I would definitely agree on that. However, 2020 is what really, Season 5 is what really changed Gigabyte for me personally, because before then I liked them. I've liked Gigabyte, Megabyte, whatever you want to call them, ever since I saw their early matches like in 2004, so I've always liked them, always liked the team, always liked just the big, powerful, full-body spinner style of Gigabyte. And unfortunately, it kind of disappointed me really when I first saw it in 2018 and also in 2019. It wasn't that impressive. As you guys know, it lost its shell to Tombstone, and it just had all sorts of problems, reliability problems, durability problems, such and such. Then Season 5 comes around, and the team has completely changed everything, and their bot is awesome now. John Malatnik, he's incredible as both the team captain and also the driver of Gigabyte, at least in Season 5. They also brought Matt Maxim of Stinger. You guys remember Stinger from 2015-2016? They brought him on as one of the weapon operators, and Gigabyte's whole story completely changed. They became an awesome bot, even more so than before. Their reliability was high, their durability was overall high, driving got way better. They managed to get some wins that normally a full-body spinner doesn't really win against. For example, they beat Copperhead in their rematch, and they dealt with a few bots with good durable wedges, like Claw Viper and also Big Dill. So, in my opinion, guys, Gigabyte is probably one of the more improved robots from 2019 to the 2020 season, or Season 5. And yeah, it does definitely get my number 8 pick, because this bot is crazy powerful, and although it does have a few weaknesses, for example being much more susceptible to wedges and getting uppercutted, still, the fact that it has become so incredibly durable though definitely gets it a very easy spot on this list at number 8. So my next favorite bot is going to be Uppercat. Now, here's the thing guys, so when I very first saw Uppercat, I didn't really know what to think about it really. And then I saw it because I just saw the CAD of it, I just saw the 3D models, in 2019. And then I see the bot in action and I go, okay, this thing looks pretty good, it's pretty powerful, and as long as the spinner doesn't go down, it's going to do pretty good. The most important thing for me personally about Uppercat is that this design should not work as well as it does. Let me explain. You have something like Endgame, or Bite Force, or just whatever, most vertical spinners with some sort of feeding wedge or forks. The bot is somewhat wide. You know that. With Uppercut, however, the weapon is sticking far out like this. And in general, it's going to be harder for the driver to pinpoint and actually hit the opponent because you're lining up a thinner area of attack with them. That is not the case, however, because Alex Sartori, the driver of Uppercut, is just fantastic. He is probably one of the more skilled drivers in the sport, and I think he's really underrated for that. It's not necessarily that he's good at driving circles around his opponent, for example, like some other drivers I'm going to mention later on in this video, but it's that he's able to consistently line up the thin front of Uppercut, even with the forks which are especially thin, at his opponents and hit them almost every time. He's an incredible driver, and he's just really hard to beat. The bot has an insane amount of weapon power in it. Torque is really high, it spins up almost instantly, so it's really hard to box rush it. And really, Uppercut is just a tank. Another great thing about it also, is that Uppercut is able to, especially the 2020 version, is able to get flipped however way you want to flip it, and it will always land on at least one wheel, and it'll be able to keep fighting, which is incredible. And, not every bot can do that without a dedicated self-riding mechanism, and Uppercut can do that without that. And so between excellent driving, really powerful weapon, overall extreme reliability with the exception of one fight against Ribot in Season 5, spoilers, Uppercut is just an amazing bot, and also not to mention it has 2 out of the arenas, and also of course a fireball explosion with saw blades. So guys, Uppercut definitely takes number 7 on this list. It's an amazing bot. Up next we have Lockjaw. Now, Lockjaw is kind of an interesting story because I'm only counting Lockjaw as one of my favorite bots 2018 forward. 2015, Lockjaw was a grabber. 2016, it was a grabber slash spring power flipper. Starting in 2018, I feel, is when Donald Hudson kind of realized, you know what? Vertical spinners kind of do pretty darn well. I wonder what would happen if I put a vertical spinner in between a couple of my forks. And so he did that. And guess what? Lockjaw started doing really, really well. It got all the way to the semifinals in 2018. So he improved it further in 2019, but of course he had smoking issues, and then he came back in 2020. Now, again guys, I'm not necessarily basing my favorite bots on how successful they were, but just my personal opinion of them. And for me, I was very, very impressed with Lockjaw ever since 2018. Donald Hudson's driving is really, really good. I think personally, I think that some of his best driving feats were most actually of his 2019 season, with the exception of Lockjaw versus Tombstone. For example, Lockjaw versus Quantum, it was really, really good, and some of his other fights later on the season, like against Black Dragon. And also, don't forget Desperado Tournament. No, sorry, not Desperado Tournament. Actually, it was, sorry. Desperado Tournament 2018, where he won that. Donald Hudson's driving was on point that entire time. And for a bot that has these big exposed wheels, they only got clipped a few times that I can remember. I know he got clipped against Tombstone, lost a few wheels. Endgame lost a wheel. I don't think that Donald Hudson ever lost wheels with Lockjaw before in other different fights, though. So he's got exceptional driving. This bot is surprisingly durable. Reliability for the spinner in particular is not that great, but still, Lockjaw's capable of delivering some really, really big hits. And also, the fact that this center part of the spinner mechanism pivots means that it can absorb shock a little bit better, and also the bot is fully invertible. And when inverted, the Lockjaw team tends to, I think they're called mutant robotics, they tend to spin the weapon the other way around so they can still uppercut. Lockjaw overall, very, very solid design. Not many things I think can be improved besides the reliability. Reliability, I think, is one of the only things holding Lockjaw back from becoming the absolute titan that it was, that, you know, Donald Hudson was back in the old Comedy Central days with bots like Dissector, for example. I know I said I wouldn't really mention Comedy Central, but I kind of had to right there. So yeah, Lockjaw, it's a very good bot overall, it's overall relatively durable. Donald Hudson's driving is really what keeps this bot alive, like I said. It's overall very low to the ground, has a great anti-spinner plow. This is a good bot, and it definitely deserves to be on this list. Up next we have Rotator, and you guys might be wondering, hey Battlebots, explain, why on earth is the image so tiny? Well, it's because, guys, I know the image of Rotator most of you guys know of. It's either the Rotator that has the double disc configuration or the single disc configuration in the undercutter. However, this is my favorite version of Rotator. It's the one that has the big anti-spinner wedge that killed Ice Wave and Tombstone, because those are the two main things that, for me personally, really put Rotator on the map for me. Partially because up until that point I did not know that Rotator actually had that wedge. And I think most of us didn't either prior to the Ice Wave fight in 2018. So what do I like about Rotator? Starting in, especially 2019, Rotator was an absolute brick. This thing refused to die no matter how much damage it took. And especially in Season 5, with the exception of one time that I can think of, Rotator's weapon never stops spinning. It just doesn't stop. It doesn't stop driving, it doesn't stop spinning. Rotator has definitely become one of the most reliable robots I can possibly think of. This thing is amazing. And also helping that is the fact that Victor Soto is a really good driver. Really, really good driver for something like Rotator, because when you have a horizontal spinner or undercutter like what Rotator can be either undercutter or overcutter, actually, with the double disc configuration or even the single disc configuration. He definitely realized that there were some weaknesses that the original Rotator had with the double discs, and so what he did is he made it so that he can have one blade, high or low, and then on the other side you could have either a wedge like this, or you could have forks, and also wheel guards, all of which helped Rotator significantly, and actually allowed it to defeat vertical spinners with a wedge, actually. For example, he was able to defeat Mad Catter, he was also able to defeat Bombshell in 2019, both of which were bots that in theory, something like Horizontal Spinner would have difficulty against, and yet Victor Soto was able to defeat both of them, which kind of impressed me a lot, and also Axolotl as well. And so between the amazing durability, seriously guys, if you have not seen Rotator versus Captain Shrederator, or Rotator versus Death Roll, watch them. Watch them, because those are some of the best examples of the durability. That and also Rotator versus Tombstone. Amazing, amazing, amazing fight. So yeah guys, incredibly durable bot, extremely reliable, won't die no matter what. Victor Soto's driving is overall very, very good. And yeah, there's not much bad I can say about Rotator. This is a great, great bot. Up next we have Sawblaze, and a lot of you guys probably expected Sawblaze to be pretty high on this list, and it is for a good reason. See, Sawblaze was actually one bot that I really wanted to do good when I first saw it in 2016. However, unfortunately though, it did get snubbed in the judge's decision against Razorback, which I still feel in my heart that that was unfair. However, Jameson Go made a comeback in 2018 and basically beat the living heck out of everyone until Bronco and Monsoon managed to stop him. And then he came back in 2019 and also 2020 and just did overall excellent. Both times he was stopped, and both years he was stopped at the quarterfinals, but still though, excellent run though from Jameson Go. Talking about the bot itself, Sawblaze is a dustpan bot that does have either 3-4 configuration you see here, or it also has a anti-spinner wedge. The great things about Sawblaze, guys, is this is an incredibly aggressive bot that is really, really fast. Jameson Go is a crazy aggressive driver, especially in the round of 16 of Season 5. He was incredibly aggressive in his round of 16 fight, used the hammer saw multiple times. Another great thing I like about Sawblaze, guys, is that... Okay, so this is actually one thing that it kind of grew on me over time. When I first saw Sawblaze, it was unique because it used an actual saw, effectively. And then he changed it over to this hammer disc that you see here, and I'll be honest, when I first saw it, I was not a fan of this. And then I actually saw it in action and against Sunwayachi. That was the fight, guys, that changed my mind about Sawblaze's overhead hammer saw. Because in that fight, when I saw him split open the bar, then I realized, oh my goodness, this thing's awesome. Then I saw in his first fight against Whiplash in Season 5, and I went, oh my goodness, this thing is devastating. So yeah, guys, I completely changed my mind about Sawblaze's hammer saw. This thing is absolutely awesome, and Sawblaze is absolutely awesome. Jameson Go, amazing driver. This bot's very durable, very reliable, and he doesn't have that many weaknesses. This is an amazing bot, definitely deserves to be on this list. Up next we have Death Roll. Now guys, I know Death Roll did not compete in Season 5, unfortunately. It did compete in Season 4 though, and my goodness, did it make an impression on me. Now also, you guys may know, those of you who have been into robot combat for a short amount of time, that Death Roll also competed way back in 2016, but they were garbage back then though. They were like 10 times as long as they are here. They had the same weapon disc, I believe, and while the bot was really sturdy and somewhat durable though, its reliability was garbage, and it did fall apart against its first fight against Captain Shrederator, and also in its rumble later on in the season. It was an exhibition rumble. However, the team that made Death Roll though, they have improved significantly though. I believe they were in King of Bots in China, and they called their bot Great White, and they did pretty well there. And then they came back to the United States with essentially what was a repainting of Shockbite. I think that's what it was. Either Shockbite or something like that they had in China. This bot, this is one of the most durable robots in robot combat history. I have never seen a vertical spinner right itself using its own weapon, hitting the ground, and survive as many times as Death Roll has. This is essentially a single tooth vertical spinner that, keep in mind guys, most of its fights it did not have these wedgelets on. To my recollection, it only had them on in one fight against Endgame and never used them again for good reason. one thing that makes Death Roll kind of unique compared to other vertical spinners similar to it is with the exception of that one time, Death Roll always use just the vertical spinner sticking out with reach. They didn't really use the forks except for one fight. That gave Death Roll an advantage in that all the energy was at this point and it was sticking far out, so it would hit the opponent generally before it got to hit Death Roll. And the bot was just incredibly durable, incredibly stable. It just would not break, it would not shut down, the weapon would keep on spinning. And this bot was absolutely amazing. It did lose in the semifinals eventually, but still, it put on a great show the entire season, had some amazing, explosive self-riding. Talking about explosive self-riding, guys. Death Roll versus Endgame, Death Roll versus Minotaur, Death Roll versus everything. I would honestly love to see Death Roll versus Bite Force or Tombstone should the team come back for Season 6. That would be absolutely amazing. So yeah guys, this is one of my favorite bots of all time, and also, they decided to put a knife and arm here. Yeah, everybody gets the joke, Australia. So yeah guys, that's going to be Death Roll, one of my favorite bots of all time, and I really hope that they do come back for Season 6. Now, at number 2, guys, we have Whiplash. Whiplash. What more can I really say about this bot, guys? When I first saw it in 2016, it was called Splatter. Now, at the time, it didn't really seem like that good of a bot, really, because Splatter didn't do very well. I think they had something like insulation for armor. And the bot overall just did not perform very well, even though Matt Vasquez's driving was still somewhat there. However, over time though, the team improved, and in 2017, I think it was Robo Games, they really proved they were a deadly threat to everyone. I believe they got like 2nd place in Robo Games that year. Then, they came back in 2018, and they basically wiped the floor with so many different bots in 2018. I mean, goodness gracious, Whiplash did amazing in 2018. They beat the living heck out of Warhead. They also defeated Christian Carlberg, Mecha Rampage. Then they really had a great fight against Tombstone that they really took it to him and really showed that Ray Billings that they were a threat. They had amazing other fights against Yeti. They upset Bronco before finally losing to Bike Force. Came back in 2019. They were also very impressive. 2020 they got to the finals before losing to Endgame. So Whiplash, their record is really amazing. Now let's talk about the bot itself. Whiplash is a vertical spinner that is inside of a lifting arm. And this bot is incredibly versatile because it can flip you over, it can hit you with the vertical spinner as you would with a standard bot of this type. It has a really low ground clearance, specifically beginning with the 2020 Season 5 version. Matt Vasquez's driving is fantastic. I really like how that they improved the wheels to these solid rubber wheels. They didn't have any problems with them. They have more configurations for the Season 5 version. They can attack overhead with the spinner. This is just one of the most versatile bots, guys, I have ever seen, and I'll be honest, when I first saw Whiplash become effective in 2018, I wanted them to win. I wanted them to win so badly. Sadly, they didn't in 2018 or in 2020. However, guys, they got so incredibly close to winning in 2020, and I personally believe that give them a couple more seasons, Whiplash will definitely be the champion, because this bot is just fantastic. Matt Vasquez is one of the best drivers of all time. It is not much more to say about Whiplash, honestly. It's just amazing. So, hey guys, Whiplash is going to be my number 2 bot. So guys, before we get to number 1, and I have a feeling that about like 50% at least of you guys know who that number 1 is. I'm going to go over a few honorable mentions, bots that I really like, but didn't quite get on this list because there were others that I enjoyed more and that I liked more. We're going to begin with Monsoon. Now, Monsoon, when I first saw this bot in the trailer for Battlebots Season 3 2018, I was ecstatic because I knew this bot. I recognized it immediately. I recognized it as the upgraded Tauron from Robot Wars. They were supposed to be, the team was supposed to bring Tauron 3 for the next season of Robot Wars. Unfortunately, that didn't happen though because the BBC were jerks. And so what ended up happening is they thought, well, we made a finished robot, why not try it elsewhere? So they brought it to Battlebots, and they did overall very, very well for a brand new robot. At least for, newer competitor to Battlebots at the time. And they came back in 2019. Unfortunately, they had an extremely disappointing 2019 season, sadly. But if they do come back, though, for next season, Season 6, I do believe that they do have a chance to cause some significant damage. Now, as to the design itself, Monsoon is a single-tooth, typically, bar spinner, vertical bar spinner. And they have the main gimmick with Monsoon, what makes them unique, is they do have this pivoting head system. Now, granted, Lockjaw does have the same type of thing, but still, a lot of people, including myself, kind of do credit Monsoon with it first because, Toron did have that system as well. Makes it unique, really, because the bot is perfectly fine when it's inverted, whereas other vertical spinners, they either have to bounce back up or they need to have a self-riding mechanism. Monsoon doesn't need either. And Tom Brewster, overall a pretty decent driver for Monsoon. The bot had a whole lot of weapon power in 2018. Tore apart Petunia, tore apart a few other bots, had some really great victories, defeated Sawblaze, which I personally didn't think would happen. And yeah, they had their best season so far was 2018. Wish them a great season, Season 6 though. But for multiple reasons though, partially because of reliability and durability, I couldn't get Monsoon quite on my top favorite list. But still though, it certainly deserves this honorable mention though. Monsoon is still awesome. Up next we have Scorpios, and guys, some of you guys may know I do like Scorpios a lot. Really like Scorpios a lot. I mean, Zach Lytle and the whole Scorpios team, they're amazing. They've actually commented on this channel a few times before. Thank you very much to them for your attention and for commenting. I really appreciate it. And yeah, Scorpios, it is essentially something very similar to Sawblaze. If you guys know something about robo games, you'll know that Orion Beach, who originally made Scorpios, also made Electric Boogaloo from robo games. And if you look at these two bots side by side, you'll notice that Scorpios and Electric Boogaloo, they kind of share a similar body design. It's just Scorpios has an overhead spinner, whereas Electric Boogaloo was a standard to static vertical spinner. Now, what I think is really fascinating about Scorpios, guys, is the front plow design is very unique on it, and how it has these kind of scoops and hooks on it to keep an opponent there. It's also not really a proper wedge, it's more of a plow style front. And yeah, Scorpios overall a very, very durable bot. Sadly, the overhead spinner was not very destructive in Season 5. It was very destructive somewhat in 2019, especially against Sidewinder. But in 2020, it just didn't do nearly as much damage. However, Zach Lytle's driving was overall mostly on point, especially when they, spoiler, upset Tombstone. That was awesome. Tombstone versus Scorpios, still one of my favorite fights of all time. So yeah, guys, Scorpios is overall a very, very good bot. It's durable, mostly reliable. Zach Lytle's a good driver. The reason it did not get on this list, guys, though, is because, as I said before, there are other bots that were able to exceed what Scorpios did, and also the fact that Scorpios' overhead spinner really didn't do that much, sadly, in 2020, which was really disappointing for me personally. But still, though, regardless, Scorpios is an amazing bot, and it definitely deserves its honorable mention. Up next we have Valkyrie. Now guys, you have no idea how much it pains me to put Valkyrie on the honorable mentions list. It's just those other robots, like I said, those other 9 that I mentioned, they were just so great and so important to me that unfortunately Valkyrie couldn't exactly fit onto the list. But let me talk about it some though. So when I first saw Valkyrie in 2018, I thought to myself, you know what, if this bot works and it's reliable, this is the next Tombstone. And now that we know that Valkyrie has received some more reliability and durability upgrades over time, yeah, it kind of is the undercutter equivalent of a Tombstone. It's really, really powerful, and it does have a pretty good driver. I apologize, I cannot remember the driver's name off the top of my head right now. But still though, this is a very, very powerful, somewhat durable, and increasingly reliable undercutter spinner. And yeah, the bot's overall pretty good. The team has improved so much, because in 2018, the fights where they were awesome, Like their first Rumble against Bale, Spear, and Predator, they did amazing. But then later on in the season, though, they started doing a little bit worse, though, when their spinner started shutting down. 2019, they did a little better. They had some pretty quick victories, and they had a really impressive victory, in particular against Monsoon. But overall, though, they still didn't do as much as we would have liked to see them do. And then Season 5 happened, and Valkyrie managed to get into the top 32, then top 16, where they were beaten again by Whiplash. Spoiler alert. So, Valkyrie overall, it's a very good, durable, powerful, reliable bot. I really like the driving style of the Undercutter. I just have a soft spot in my heart, guys, for Undercutters, even when they're not as effective as some other bot styles are. I just personally have a love for Undercutters, and Valkyrie definitely is one of those bots. Again, the reason it's not higher on this list, or didn't make the list and it's instead an honorable mention, is because, well, again, I like other bots better than it. But it does not mean Valkyrie's a bad bot, though. It's a great bot, and the team is continuing to learn and improve on it, and I think they're going to do better and better as time goes on. So Valkyrie gets another spot on the honorable mention list. Up next, we have Captain Shreddery. Oh my goodness, guys. Oh my goodness, you know, when I said at the beginning of this list, guys, that, when I said at the beginning that the bots that I'm going to put on this list aren't necessarily for their record, this is probably the best example I can think of. Because Captain Shrederator, I haven't looked at it recently, but I know that they have an abysmal win-loss ratio. And I also know, guys, that Brian Nave is not really the best driver in the world. He has had so many driving mistakes that it is painful. And same thing with the other drivers that have driven Captain Shrederator, and his reliability is terrible, and it's just a disaster of a bot. So you guys may be wondering, Battlebots, explain why in the heck is it on your honorable mentions list? I'll tell you why. Like I said, the record doesn't matter to me as much as whether I personally like the bot or not. I like Captain Shrederator because one of my first times ever seeing Battlebots, one of the first fights I ever saw was Shrederator vs. Death Roll 2016. And in that fight, Captain Shrederator, it was the first full-body spinner I ever saw in my life. This bot impressed the heck out of me back then. And I just thought, wow, that's actually really fascinating, because Tombstone just has a spinner on one side, but Shrederator is just all the way around. It's awesome. Of course, you know, then it fought Chomp, and I lost all respect for it. But what I'm trying to say, though, guys, is, for one thing, Shrederator, it has had some success, previously in older tournaments, and also, it actually had a couple legitimately good fights, especially in Season 5. Like Shrederator vs. Rotator, it showed it has amazing reliability for at least that one fight. Again, that one fight, it actually had amazing reliability. And also, the fact that for that particular fight, Brian Nave's driving was on point, and same thing with their fight against Axe Backwards, this bot can do extremely well, but it has to get kind of lucky to do so. So again, guys, this is not a bot that necessarily does good or is good, it's just a bot that I personally like. That's what this list is about, after all. So Captain Shrederator definitely did not do enough to get on the actual list, but I will give it an honorable mention nevertheless, though. Now, guys, we come to our final honorable mention before I reveal my #1 favorite robot of all time, which is going to be Cobalt. Now, guys, I love the 2019 vertical spinner version of Cobalt as much as all of you guys do. I really like that bot. It grew on me a ton. But to me personally, though, if you mention a Battlebot named Cobalt, this is what I will imagine first every single time. The first version of Cobalt, which is essentially Carbine from Robot Wars with a different spinner. Guys, this bot made a huge impression on me when I first saw it, because, at least to my knowledge, I believe it was one of the very first ever asymmetrical spinners that I saw, and certainly the first horizontal asymmetrical spinner that I ever saw, because this one part is curved and the other part is straight, so it's effectively a single tooth bar. and it was one of the first bots of this type that I have ever seen. And it made a huge impression on me there. It made a huge impression on me that had a great amount of power in its Fight vs. Overhaul in 2016. I was horrified when Bombshell took it out in 2016, but still though, as much as I love the 2019 Cobalt, this is one of the bots that I really genuinely wish had more screen time, that had more fights, because I would have loved to see how this bot would have done if, say, it defeated Bombshell and got to progress in the tournament. What more could this bot have done? It could have done extremely well for all we know, but we don't know. I would have really liked to see what the 2016 Cobalt could have done, and I really wish that they would come back. I just really like the design of this thing. Again, I love this asymmetrical bar they have on it. It's beautiful, it packs so much of a punch, it looks amazing. I really want this version of Cobalt to come back in some way, shape, or form, or for outright Carbide to come back into Battlebots. So guys, that's going to be my last honorable mention. Really love the original Cobalt from Battlebots 2016. So guys, we have one more robot left. It is my #1 favorite robot of all time, and it should be no surprise to any of you who have watched this channel that robot is, of course, Byte Force. Byte Force. Any version of this bot is basically awesome. Let me go over it for you, for those of you who don't know much about this bot somehow. So, Byte Force, it originally competed in 2015, and it was a grappler bot designed and built by Paul Ventimiglia and also by Apex Designs. I hope I'm pronouncing their name right. And it was a grappler bot, and it managed to win every fight. Some were close, and then it won the championship against Tombstone. Came back in 2016 with a vertical spinner design, didn't do as well because it got upset by Chomp. Then it came back in 2018 and killed everyone. And then it came back again in 2019 and killed everyone. And then it did not come back in 2020. The team decided to take a break off because of COVID-19, and so it allowed Byte Force. Here's the thing, guys. No one won 2020 Season 5. Byte Force allowed that because they did not compete. I'm joking, of course, but you guys know that if Byte Force was competing in Season 5, let's be honest, there's a good chance Byte Force probably would have won Season 5 as well. So guys, what are the reasons why Byte Force is my favorite robot? It is essentially the perfect vertical spinner with wedge or forks design. It has, in what is my opinion, in my opinion, some of the best reliability and durability of any bot. The spinner on Byte Force basically never goes down. The bot constantly keeps on moving, and it's a relatively well-paced bot. Paul Ventimiglia is, in my personal opinion, the best driver of all time. Byte Force is stupidly low to the ground. I mean, those wedgelets, forks on Byte Force, just don't even try to get underneath them. Go for any other strategy besides trying to get under Byte Force. His driving is almost always on point. The weapon never goes down. I believe Byte Force's weapon is powered by 4 individual motors to make sure it never goes down. It's overall very durable, very reliable. He defeated Ray Billings and Tombstone twice, once in 2015, and then once in 2019 by basically a one-hit KO. He also defeated, who else? He also defeated, Will Bales and Hypershock 3 times. My goodness, Battlebots Discovery, stop putting those two up against each other. It's not fair to Will. I guarantee you guys, if Byte Force competed in Season 5, they would have stuck Will Bales and Hypershock up against him at least once. I guarantee you that. So guys, also one other thing that most people don't know about Byte Force. They say that if it gets flipped over, it's dead. That's not true. If you look at their Rumble in 2016, Byte Force got flipped over and it was able to right itself by turning the spinner on and ramming itself into the wall. So Byte Force is invertible. It can self-ride even if it takes it a while. But it was only flipped over ever once, so, you know, most people have never seen it flipped over. So guys, Byte Force overall is extremely reliable, extremely durable, in my opinion has the best driver of all time. It's very, very low to the ground, very sturdy. You can't really kill this thing. And let's be honest, Bite Force is probably one of the reasons why everyone is making a vertical spinner with a wedge of forks. Let's be honest, it's partially because of this mod. So guys, Bite Force is my #1 pick, and that is going to be the end of this video, guys. And again, this is my personal opinion only. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. You guys probably like other bots that I don't like, or you dislike bots that I like. That's fine. It's your opinion. Everything's fine, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video of mine. I know this was a pretty darn long video, but I felt like I had a lot of different things to discuss in it. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, also consider subscribing, and yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.